showed last year that he's got some skills with the stick, and certainly didn't look out of place playing for the Oakville Rock, and I think that's a pretty big testament for a rookie to step into a league against the best players in the world and be asked to play a different role than he's familiar with and go out and perform admirably.
So it's somebody that could probably complement one of the newest Blizzard as well, Shane Scott, who they acquired in that trade. Sounds like he can get the ball up the floor to Shane Scott and maybe unload that cannon. We know from that right side, Shane Scott just loves to rip that.
He does. He loves to shoot from the outside. He's very good at it. Showed a little bit more ability to shoot from different parts of the floor, because that was the one knock on him, was he would generally shoot from the same spot. And the thing is, goalies at this level, if you keep showing them the same thing, they're going to get the hang of it. And he's a guy who started to adapt, and I think Maudsley will help to kick their running game.
All right, we'll throw it up to the podium. Niagara with the pick.
With a 28th overall pick from Niagara Falls, the Niagara Lock Monsters select Brooker Muir.
So Stephen Brooker Muir, can he add to Niagara right away, or does he need a little bit of development? I know with Southwest we talked, you're looking for the season, so obviously they anticipate him to fit in, but what are your thoughts?
I think the challenge for someone going to Niagara, and we're looking at the 7th round right now. I think they're looking at guys that they believe can come in and compete, but the reality is Niagara had a very deep team. They're the champions for a reason. They played a very solid game. They played well offensively, well defensively, good goaltending, and they've added Zach Boychuk to try and continue that. I think the expectation on Brooker Muir is to come in and try and fight for a spot and be prepared. I mean, you're looking at guys who have been pretty central players. Like Muir has been a central guy with the St. Catharines Athletics. He's played some solid lacrosse for them, and he's not necessarily used to being one of the fringe guys on a roster, but that's the situation when you come into a league that's this deep and this solid.
And let's set it up for another Southwest pick.
With a 29th overall pick, the Southwest Cyclops are proud to select Travis Burton.
So Travis Burton getting selected by the Cyclops, and he had a pretty good combine, according to you, right, Stephen?
Just turned my mic on. Yeah, I thought he looked really solid out there. He's got some good size, as you can see. He was moving the ball well. He's primarily a defensive player with the Brampton Excelsiors junior team, but he was showing some good hands and some good movement. I was actually really impressed with the way he was looking in the offensive zone. So for a guy to stand out in the offensive zone when his background is primarily defensive shows that he gets what you need in Canadian Lacrosse League.
Yeah, and as you mentioned with Brampton, good junior player. And do you think that really helps? Junior is kind of, not two-way like it is in CLax, but you do end up at both ends of the floor. So do you think guys coming out of junior have a little bit of advantage than guys coming out of other leagues?
Yeah, I mean, it depends so much where you're coming from. I mean, we see, I think most of the guys do come through the junior system, and I think it definitely helps to be prepared for playing, being prepared to play a system, and be responsible for your role, be responsible for what you're expected to do. The things that you're asked to do may change a bit when you come into the Canadian Lacrosse League from junior, and I think Travis Burton is an example of a guy who came here ready to do whatever was asked of him today, and he's certainly embracing the concept.
And when I got here, that was one of the first names you mentioned out of the combine. What was he doing out there that was really impressing you?
He showed some really good floor vision. I thought he was running the floor well. I thought he was moving the ball well, making smart passes, very precise passes. Just looked like he had a very fluid stick, which is so important in moving the ball and when you're expected to play up in the two-way game here in CLax. And of course, size doesn't hurt. Being a bigger kid out there, gives him an advantage. But really, I thought it was the way that he handled himself on the floor, just seeing the floor and playing a good all-around game.
So Durham is going to get the next pick. We've talked about all the other arenas. GM Center we're both familiar with. We go to most of the games there on a lot of the broadcasts. What do you think about the GM Center, and what kind of advantage do guys have playing on that big surface?
It's a beautiful floor. I mean, it's a beautiful arena. It's a great place to play. You go in there and it's a very professional feel, and I think it's just a pretty neat place to play, and in such a nice facility, and it'll be great if we can start packing it. And I'd love to see it straining at the rafters to try and fit everybody in. I mean, it seats about 5,000 or 6,000 people, so it's it'd be a tall order. But I think as the Turf Dogs capture the imagination of the Durham public, I think they're going to give a good chance to really light things up there.
Yeah, good crowd there, and shout out to Captain Oshawa. He tries to rile the fans up most games, and we'll throw it back up to the podium for the next pick.
With the 30th overall pick, the Durham Turf Dogs select Thomas Hogarth.
So Thomas Hogarth, product of the Peterborough Junior A's, very gritty player, Stephen, and I mean they have to be happy with that selection.
Yeah, a kid who, again, Matt Giles would be familiar with from coaching him in Peterborough with the Lakers, and he is a kid who I found through the course of the season really seemed to grow. He was coming back off ACL surgery, so he was getting a feel, getting his legs back under him. But I just thought his defensive game grew by leaps and bounds. Like you said, gritty. He's a big, strong, tough kid who plays smart. Doesn't take a ton of penalties. Plays a pretty smart game, but he also showed that he's got some stick skills. He can help get the ball heading up the other way. And I think he's a kid that, again, we're looking at the 30th pick in this draft, and that's pretty good value, I think, for to get a kid like Thomas Hogarth at 30th.
No, absolutely, and he plays very aggressive, gritty, as we both mentioned, and he doesn't take a lot of penalties, which is very tough to do in this day and age. With things being so tight, a lot of penalties being called, but Hogarth stays out of the box for the most part.
Yeah, and it is impressive to play that gritty style, the aggressive style. He's certainly not a shrinking violet by any sense of the imagination, and I think he's going to bring a lot of toughness to Durham. And he's obviously picked. He's no sure thing to be on the roster. I mean, he's going to have to go in and battle for a roster spot. But I think, given the way he played with the Junior Lakers this year, I think he's going to go in and just go hard and try and force his way into that lineup.
And obviously, you can't speak from his perspective, but going into CLax with Coach Matt Giles, someone who coached him in junior, do you think that takes a little bit of the pressure off going into the Durham training camp?
I don't know whether it takes the pressure off or puts it on, because he already knows what Giles' expectations are, and it helps a bit that he's seen, Giles has seen him play. He knows what he can do. He knows what his potential is to bring to the team, so that might help. So if he struggles a bit in camp, GI can say, hey, here's what you do well. Do that. Do this. Here's what I want you to do. But at the same time, his expectations are going to be, hey, I know you can play better than this. If he's not performing up to what he can do, but I think he's a real heart and soul guy that they're going to be pretty happy with there.
And we know Peterborough Lakers assistant coach, video coach Jeff Ralph. He is watching at home right now, so maybe he can get some Thomas Hogarth compilation tapes together and work with Hoagie getting ready for this training camp.
And actually, yeah, shout out to Jeff Ralph and Jan McGee. Ralphie called me a little while before the draft to say, hey, just want to make sure the website's all set. We're good to go. We're sitting here. And Jan McGee, of course, Peterborough District Sports Hall of Fame member, Canadian Lacrosse Hall of Fame member, one of the great names in the game of lacrosse, and it's nice to have guys like that watching, and I'm sure they're very excited for Thomas Hogarth to have been picked and to be launching his career at the next level of the game.
We talked about Shane Scott's shot. Jan McGee, one of the hardest shots in the history of lacrosse. I was once told that he broke an Indian rubber ball in half shooting it off the crossbar. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I was told as a young whippersnapper. Yep.
Are there any old whippersnappers?
Yeah, I don't know. But it looks like we're all set as we'll throw it back up to the podium.
With the 31st overall pick, the Barrie Blizzards select Brody Burkhoff.
So Brody Burkhoff, Burlington Junior A, he is known for his toughness. And again, Boucher is irreplaceable. We've touched on that, but Burkhoff could bring a lot of strength to that back end. He's known to throw the gloves. He is a trained kickboxer. He knows how to fight, and he can certainly intimidate the other team.
Yeah, certainly, like you said, known probably more for his fighting than for his lacrosse skills, but he's a guy who's been playing the game for a long time. He's played at the junior C level, came up and played at the junior A level, and was expected to bring toughness. And you can't stick around in junior A lacrosse just by fighting. I mean, you've got to bring something to the table, and I think that Burkhoff does bring that toughness. He brings he's going to make you aware when you're going into his end of the floor. Again, for him, the challenge is a primarily defensive guy in this league. Can he bring enough of a contribution in the other end of the floor to earn playing time? Because that's what he's going to have to prove to them, that he's more than just a tough guy, more than just a guy who's going to go out and hit people. He's got to bring something that's going to contribute all over the floor to make a roster in this league, because you just don't have room for passengers.
And do you think he does have the hands to play in this league? Every time I've seen him, his gloves are on for about 5 minutes of the game, and then the second shift usually he goes out and dances. That's why Burlington dressed him. But do you think he can develop the hands, or does he have it already?
I honestly don't know. I think that's going to be the challenge for Brody. I think he's played the game, like I said, for a long time. He loves the game. I think they want that toughness, but I think they'll make it pretty clear to him, you're not here just to toss the knuckles. You gotta play the game, and that'll be the big challenge. I honestly, I'm up in the air on that one, but good luck to him. I certainly think he's going to bring an element to the team that they're going to be interested to see how his balance develops.
And Barrie has another pick, so we'll see what they follow that up with.
With the 32nd overall pick, the Barrie Blizzards select Alexis Buke.
So a great young goaltender selected here. I mean, we're familiar with him, watching him in the junior A ranks. He was with Whippy a couple years ago and took them all the way. What do you think about that addition?
Yeah, like you said, a Minto Cup champion with the Whitby Warriors, drafted by the Colorado Mammoth this year. And I think he's got a very good chance at sticking with that club. But, if he doesn't, he'll be a tremendous addition in Barrie. Their goaltending situation, they had Angus Dineley last year. He didn't play over the summer. He was trying out for the Canadian field lacrosse team, didn't quite make that team for the World Championships. But I think, if Dineley is back, you've got an incumbent who's very good. But, Derek Collins is 39. He's not going to play forever. Scotty Comer also in his late 30s. So you've got a couple of older goaltenders who, you're not sure how long they're going to be around, how long they're going to want to keep playing and be able to make the commitment. So bringing a guy like Alexis Bouquet in, if you can get him, if he's available, I think he's a tremendous addition. He played Senior A out in New Westminster this summer and actually had a very strong season for the Salmon Bellies. So he's a guy who could step in and, if at the 32nd pick, if you get him if he's available to come to your team, it turns out to be a brilliant pick.
And do you think he'd walk in to be the number one, or do you think he would still need to fight off those other guys you mentioned?
I think if Angus Dineley is there, I think it's Dineley's job to lose, and Bouquet would have to wrest it away from him. I think I'm a big Angus Dineley fan. I think he's a tremendous goaltender, very good at stopping the ball, a great passer as well, which is obviously critical in a league where transition is such an important part of the game. So I definitely don't think he steps in onto the floor at camp as the number one guy, but he would have every opportunity to earn the spot.
And you mentioned Collins and Comer. Do you see them coming back this year, or do you think they've played their last game in the Canadian Lacrosse League? They both had great runs.
They did, and they're both guys who have had long careers in a variety of leagues, and it's hard to say as you're when you're a bit of an older player, do you want to keep going? Do you want to make the commitment? Are you able to make the commitment with other obligations and expectations on you in your life? So. I would think if Dineley were to be back and they brought Bouquet in, to me, those are your two guys that you move forward with.
And we've talked about almost every rink except for the Barrie Molson Center. So let's touch on that. It's one of my favorite spots with the blue turf down there.
I love it. I think it's a great facility. The crowds really get into it. They're very supportive of their team. And the cool thing, they were very supportive when they were, when they were losing and losing pretty badly in a lot of games. And they really built up when the team got more competitive. They really rode with them, and you could feel the energy going back and forth between the team and their fans. I think it's a great rink to play in.
And before we get the 9th round underway, we will throw it to another one of our sponsors, St. William's Nursery.
St. William's Nursery is Ontario's largest native plant nursery and is committed to biodiversity conservation. We offer a large selection of high-quality trees, shrubs, grasses, wildflower, and seed, all which are grown from a source-identified, wild-collected seed. Visit us on May 2nd and 3rd at our annual spring public sale. Choose from a beautiful selection of species, all at special wholesale pricing. Visit us at stwilliamsnursery.com for details.
And it looks like Durham is all set to kick off the 9th round.
With the 33rd overall pick, the Durham Turf Dogs select Eric Shewell.
So once again, Durham Turf Dogs going to Peterborough with this pick. Eric Schewel, that is a great snatch this late in the draft.
Yeah, and a guy who should be available to come and play. I mean, we've seen Southwest loading up on Brampton Excelsior's players. Durham obviously going for guys from Peterborough. It's the proximity is fantastic. Eric Schewel, a guy who wasn't drafted in the Major Series Lacrosse draft. He was invited to training camp by the MSL Peterborough Lakers with a chance to try and earn a spot on the team. And he played with them. He got into a fair number of games and was surprisingly effective for a guy who wasn't drafted, was coming in, having to play against these very high quality players, and he stepped in and actually looked quite good, I thought, for the senior Lakers. I mean, I thought he did a tremendous job for them, and he's a guy that I was looking when I was looking at the list of players for this draft. I thought, he's a guy who could go pretty high, and you figure Durham was the likely landing spot, but Hogarth, Schewel, some of these guys are adding. I think you're going to see some real impetus to compete at that camp.
And we talked about Brody Burkhoff, wondering if he has the total balance. Eric Schewel can throw the mitts, and he can also play the game, and the ladies love to look at him from what I'm hearing as well. So we send it back up for the next pick.
With the 34th overall pick, the Southwest Cyclops select Brendan Slade from Orangeville.
So another Orangeville guy going, this time Slade. And what can you tell us about him, Stephen?
He's a guy who's going to bring quite a bit to the club. I'm just pulling him up here just to get a view of his numbers, but he's a guy who certainly can play at a high level, and I think again, you get this point of the draft. He's a guy that you like that he's come through a good system. He's played in that Orangeville system. He knows how to play the game responsibly, and I think he's going to bring a lot to training camp. And again, with a 9th round pick, you're not walking into camp saying, "Yeah, I'm going to be on the club." You're walking into camp saying, "I want to come and work and try and be part of this club," and I think that's what he's going to bring.
And this late in the draft, is there any names that you think we should have seen already, or has everyone that was on your radar pretty much been selected?
That's a great question. I mean, you have to look through and see. There are a few guys I think that could be interesting picks that I think teams may be waiting on. I mean, we saw some American players signing up for this draft, and do they get picked? Are they going to be able to get here and make it? I mean, it's interesting. I think it's interesting that people are recognizing the importance of the Canadian Lacrosse League as a stepping stone to the NLL and as just a very high level of lacrosse in itself. I think with guys who aren't here, it's pretty tough. I think a couple of guys that impressed me in the scrimmage today, I think we could still see getting called. A guy like David Nedelko, or DJ Nedelko, who just won a Bagataway Cup with the Guelph Griffins, who I thought looked very good. He's a long stick player in the field game. I thought he looked very comfortable handling the ball. I thought he did a good job of running the floor. I think a guy, you just look at someone like Bryden Curran, who was running up and down the floor, working hard for loose balls, showing some stick skills. Somebody like Adam Nix, a Tonawanda Braves product, who showed some great skill. I mean, he made one pass almost the length of the floor on a rope, right into somebody's stick for a goal earlier in the day in that combine scrimmage. And I think these are guys that may have played themselves into a pick today.
And I was just going to say, is there some guys, do you think, that maybe weren't on teams' radars that proved themselves, or vice versa? Do you think there's some guys who maybe went out there and went the other way, guys weren't able to prove their worth?
I'm not going to. I don't think so. I think.
Without naming names,
Yeah.
do you think that both sides of it did go on here today?
Possibly. I think that's a factor. You come in with certain expectations, certain things that teams know about you or have heard about you, and they maybe haven't had a chance to see a lot of you performing in person. So it's a chance to show them what you're able to do. And maybe there are some guys who had certain teams had certain perceptions coming in and saw them and said, that's not really. Maybe he's not going to fit into this league, but I thought there were some guys who put themselves on the radar with their work, with the hustle, with some speed, and we've seen Travis Burton get picked. I think he had a chance to get picked anyways, but I would suspect that he improved his stock with the way he performed today. I don't think there's much doubt about that. One guy, Ryan Marchand, is another guy who was in the scrimmage today and showed great stick skills. Tim Prothero, the league photographer, was going on about how much he enjoyed watching him play. Great hands, great vision, runs very well, and a very nice, simple throwing and catching motion that works very well. So he's a guy, maybe somebody takes a chance on him, a guy who scored very well in Junior B and showed that he fits into, I think, the CLax approach to the game in his performance today.
And you got to wander around. You were on the bench. You were on the floor for a little bit. How was the atmosphere out there? Were guys pretty quiet, just keeping to themselves, or were they getting on each other to, call the plays and stuff like that? Or how did you think the atmosphere was?
I thought they were fairly quiet. I don't think a lot of guys wanted to be getting all over their teammates. And I think, we had Jeff Dowling and Jim Veltman on the benches giving some feedback to the players. And I think they're really trying to take that all. And it was interesting hearing some of the players asking questions of the coaches, like, about their backgrounds and trying to just get more information from them as well.
And let's get some more information from Jim Veltman as Barrie has the next pick. So Barrie Blizzard going with Sheldon Burns. Nice Brooklyn Redman. And we saw a lot of him this year. And a nice young player, and he was very impressive. Another player going very late and could be a steal if he is available.
That's true, and he went in the National Lacrosse League draft. He's going to be, like so many players drafted, if you're not, basically this year in the NLL draft, if you weren't in the top 6 or 7 guys, you face a bit of an uphill battle making a roster just because of the depth of them. And the reality is, coming on to a CLax training camp, you're facing an uphill battle because there is a lot of talent. There's a lot of guys who have been playing the game, playing it very well. But I think Sheldon Burns is a guy who, if he comes back from NLL camp, could step right into the Blizzard roster and really add some defensive, some defensive acumen. He's very quick, very athletic, has the ability to get out high and play defense well up the floor and recover and get back and play in tight. I think he's got some speed, he's got some stick skills. He's probably not going to score a bunch of goals, but I think he can help you get the transition going, and I think he can contribute in the offensive zone. I think, again, we're looking at the 35th pick in this draft, showing you how much talent is available that a guy like Sheldon Burns is still there.
So we had a big question mark beside the Barrie Blizzard going into this one, but they've made some smart picks in this draft, and they could be right up there at the top this year.
Yeah, I think they definitely are going to need to get performances from some of these guys stepping in and contributing right away. They won't have much of a time for a learning curve because with some of the losses that this team is going to experience, they need guys to step in right away. But they're doing a nice job of filling some of those roles. And you just look through and see some of the guys they've picked, and I think they've got a team that's going to have a lot of character. I think that's what they showed last year. It was the ability to compete, the willingness and desire to go out and compete, and that's why they got better and better as they went. The question for them was the talent level. They added some talent, and that helped them. You know, they don't have the sort of elite standout players, but they have a lot of guys who worked very hard and contributed. And I think they're going to have the same thing again. To me, the big thing is, can Connor Latimer step in right away and score a bunch of goals for them? I think that's going to help. I think can these defensive players immediately take away opportunities from the opposition?
All right, we'll see 2 back-to-back picks now for Niagara.
Niagara Lock Monsters select Trevor Learn.
So Trevor Learn going to Niagara, a lefty. What can you tell us about him, Stephen?
You were just asking about guys who performed today and raised their stock, or made teams notice them. I think Trevor Learn is one of those. Came in and played in the scrimmage and did some pretty good things out there. Showed some good floor sense. He's a guy who scored 43 goals with the Windsor Clippers last year. One of 3 Clippers who the 3 leading scorers from that team who came out to the combine. And I think obviously they liked what they saw. Like we said, some talent. I scored 81 points last season with the Windsor Clippers. It's a big jump from Junior B to the Canadian Lacrosse League, and that's the challenge for a guy like him. But he's someone who's shown a consistent ability to score and then really exploded, went from 20 goals and 18 goals in the 2 seasons prior to 43 last year. So if he can bring that continued growth to the game here, then he can contribute for a team. Now, Niagara, such a deep roster. He's really going to have to fight to earn a spot.
Niagara, obviously last year's Creators Cup champions, and you got to call that game, and it was certainly an exciting one.
Oh my God, it was fantastic. It was such a great game. These Weekend Demons get up. Niagara just battles back. Dave DeRuscio was fantastic. I think it was just a tremendous and exciting way to cap off the year. And just seeing some highlights of it tonight before we got going just makes you want the season to get started.
And we said Niagara had 2 in a row, but from that trade earlier, this pick is actually for the Durham Turf Dogs. So Jonas Dirks is joining Jim Veltman on stage now.
With the 37th overall pick, the Durham Turf Dogs select Dalton Lundy.
So after a bunch of picks from Peterborough for the Durham Turf Dogs, they now grab Lundy. And what can he bring to the Turf Dogs, Stephen?
He's a big, strong guy. He's a defensive player, defense first, played with the Clarington Green Gales. Again, a very strong program. He's coming from a great product of a very good program. He's tough. He brings some size and a willingness to go out and bang. Not a high-powered offensive player. I don't think you're going to expect a lot of offense out of him, but he certainly won't shy away from running the ball. But I think he's like I said, a defense-first guy that is from the region and is going to go in and compete. And you can see again, the big smile. He's very excited to have a chance to become part of the Durham Turf Dogs.
Yeah, and lots of size, as you mentioned. Looks like he's wearing shoulder pads underneath there. That's a big body that the Durham Turf Dogs have added. And it's something that, they maybe need for this year. We talked about the record last year, and I don't think they had any bangers that could really go in and sort of put that fear into opponents.
Yeah, a bit of a chip on the shoulder doesn't hurt, come in with a bit of attitude. And I think they're going to be looking for that. And he's certainly a guy who's going to come in and work very hard. You can see he's almost as big as Matt Giles, who, a big solid guy himself.
We've got some discussions over here. We'll get to that in a second. Southwest is on the clock right now. Not sure if they are making a trade But a little bit of action over at the Southwest table, and it wouldn't surprise us with all the trades we've seen so far here tonight.
There has been a lot of dealing. We've seen some very good players move around. One you're asking about Barrie with the players they've added. We didn't even get a chance to talk about that in the famous Jonas Dirks trade from earlier today with Brad Levick and Russ Polton going to Barrie. There's some more guys. Russell Polton, a tremendous running player, very good defensive guy for Durham the last couple of years, and a real character player, I think, for them. I think he's a guy that brought a lot of oomph to the lineup in terms of playing a solid defensive game, getting the ball up the floor, and creating transition chances. You had Brad Levick, who's a proven scorer over the years. So there have been some players moving around, and I think Southwest. We've seen them add a lot of Brampton guys. We've seen them add a lot of skill to their team, and you look at the rosters from last year and how solid most of the teams were. Like all the teams were. I mean, we talked about Southwest and Durham both being just close to being really competitive in the league, and they've added a lot, and it's getting to the point where there's going to be a lot of talented players not making Canadian Lacrosse League rosters.
It's still we still have a few picks left, but who do you think has done the best in this draft? Is anyone standing out to you, or do you think it's pretty well balanced in all the selections so far?
It's so hard to tell as we're going down, and we're going pick by pick, and I think I do like what Southwest has done. I think they've added a lot of guys who are going to be able to come in and contribute. I think Niagara moved to get 4 of the first 6 picks and added a lot with those picks. And it looks like we're ready for another one.
All right.
With the 38th overall pick, Southwest Cyclops choose Shane McDonald, hometown Elora, Junior A, Brampton.
So Shane McDonald out of Elora, so adding a little bit of speed with that pick.
Yeah, you're adding some speed, a tremendous skill level. That's a guy that they're thinking, if he becomes available, he's worth the gambling the 38th pick on. They've already added a lot of guys who I think are going to be able to step in and contribute. And if he was the 5th overall pick in the National Lacrosse League. I think he's going to be expected to be playing in the NLL, playing in the Pro League in the winter. But if he became available, he's immediately a dynamic player in this league.
And we'll see what Barrie does with this next pick.
With the 39th overall pick, the Barrie Blizzards select Alex Brennan.
So the Blizzard already loading up. What does Alex add to their team if he is available?
Yeah, he's a guy who should be available to play with them. He's another Clarington product, and he's a solid defensive player. He knows how to play the game. I think he's a guy that could step in and play right away again. Frankly, if you can get a guy in the 10th round of the draft who can come and make your team and contribute, you've done a pretty nice job. And I think he's someone that has a chance to do that. He's someone that some National Lacrosse League teams are looking at coming out of that Green Gales program as someone with the athleticism and the skill set to maybe be a factor at that level. I don't think it's working out for him there, but he's a guy who I think is going to come into training camp and is going to look at it and say, why not me? Why can't I make this team and contribute?
So we have one pick left in the 10th round, and then we move on to the last couple rounds. Do you think we'll see a lot of gambles right now, guys who might not be available, but teams still choose them just in case?
It's certainly possible. I mean, you see someone like Shane McDonald being selected, and that's something that teams can take a look at. I think, you have to think about the risk-reward, who's going to be able to contribute to your team, and it could turn out to be a pick that down the road, like you said, really works out.
All right, and we're ready for that last pick of this 10th round.
With the 40th pick overall, the Niagara Lock Monsters select Devin Saster.
So congratulations to Devin, and we're going to take this opportunity to throw it to two of our great sponsors, Junior CLax. Another reminder, the World Indoor Lacrosse Championship coming up next year. It will take place in Six Nations. So if you want to sign up for that, you can get online. And we also have a ad here from BHI as well that we'll throw to.
Calling all youth lacrosse players, come play like a pro with Junior CLax. Want to play winter box lacrosse in the same great venues as the pros? Well, here's your chance. CLax operates a winter box lacrosse league for kids. Divisions range from U9 to the Prospect Division, or U18. Teams are located in Barrie, Oshawa, Niagara, Six Nations, and Paris, with games being played on the same days as the pros. Be sure you get yourself registered today, as the season starts January 2015. For more information, please visit CanadianLacrosse.com and come play like a pro.
Ball Hockey International, Ontario's premier outdoor ball hockey league. Leagues of all ages and skill levels. 4 seasons throughout the year, spring, summer, fall, and winter. Visit us for more information at ballhockeyinternational.ca.
All right, we are all set to kick off round 11.
41st overall pick goes to the Durham Turf Dogs, and they've chosen to select Nevin Sullivan.
So Stephen, Nevin Sullivan, out of the Ottawa area. Do you know much about him?
Not a lot. Again, we're getting into, they're looking around, playing with the Nepean Knights Junior B, coming out of the Junior B program there. And I'm not actually that familiar with him, but he's a guy, it's nice to see players from different regions getting involved, getting a chance to come and compete for spots. And I'm sure they've basically had a chance to see him and liked what they saw out of it. And, that's the program that produced Tim Bergen, I believe, from that area, certainly from up in the eastern part of the province. And, you can find some diamonds in the rough. He certainly was a nice addition to Niagara last year.
Yeah, the Ottawa area is certainly producing some good players. I mean, we've seen Jake Fox really develop over the years. He's from that area as well. Yeah. And we'll get set for another Southwest pick.
With a 42nd pick overall, the Southwest Cyclops select Brendan Auger. Oh, sorry, Anger.
So this is someone who is here today, Stephen. Did you get a chance to watch him at all out at the Combine?
Yeah, saw him out there, and he's certainly a guy who came in with quite a reputation. He's the leading scorer from the Ontario Junior B League last year, Brendan Anger, with 111 points, 57 goals, 54 assists, and obviously knows how to put the ball in the net. Again, the challenge for him is going to be stepping up, getting used to the faster pace of play, the challenge of playing against men who have the athleticism to take away some of the things that he was used to doing in the junior league. Again, that Junior B to Canadian Lacrosse League is a big jump, and I think for him, probably shaking off a few nerves is going to help and give him a chance to go out and show that what he can do. I mean, if you can score 57 goals, it means you've got some talent, and you can shoot the ball, and that's what he's going to have to get to.
Yeah, that's got to be a nice sleeper pick this late in the round. Somebody who can put up that amount of numbers going in the 11th round, that's a great steal, I think, for Southwest.
Yeah, and again, they're looking for some scoring. They've added some really good two-way players in this draft and some good defense-first guys. But we haven't seen them going too much on the offensive side of the game. So maybe they're looking with him and Brendan Slade. Another transition guy, but they're looking for Anger to just put the ball in the net, and it's going to be pretty simple, I think, when he goes to camp, and they're going to say, just show us that you can score at this level.
All right, and I think we're all set for Barrie's next selection.
The 43rd overall pick goes to Barrie Blizzard, and they've chosen to select Zach Kozlowski.
So Kozlowski coming out of the Junior A ranks, Barry Lakeshore. And did you get to see much of him play in the last couple summers?
Not a lot. He only played 4 games this past summer. He was at Adrian College, so he's got the field game background as well. A bit of a sleeper pick. I think a guy who's played some Junior B lacrosse, moved his way up to the Junior A level, and it'll be interesting to see for him if. Again, if he can go in and translate what he's done both on the field and in the box into a spot with the Canadian Lacrosse League team. Certainly Barry has had a chance, obviously, to get familiar with him, and I would think that they're looking for him to come in and again just come to camp ready to compete.
And being known as a field guy, not just him, but any of the guys in here who sort of excel in the field, what are some of the adjustments that they would need to make to excel in this CLax league?
Obviously, you've got the tighter quarters. One thing they in the Canadian Lacrosse League, because of the emphasis on taking away off-ball checking, taking away the slashes on guys who don't have the ball, allowing players to cut to the net if they don't have the ball. So you can't just wail on guys, as we see in some of the other senior leagues and that. I think it gives an advantage to guys who are used to playing a bit more of a finesse game, a bit more of a skill game, and that's the game that I know Jim Veltman and envisioned when he was helping to create this league, was let skilled players go out and perform the way that they're capable of. And I think that's something that is a bit of a benefit for guys who have that mixed heritage.
Some discussions at the tables. Not sure if we're set for the next pick or if there's going to be some movement or not, but Durham is on the clock. And again, we've seen a lot of Peterborough guys. Do you think there's anyone else from that Peterborough area that they can add that hasn't been selected as of yet?
Interesting. You'd have to go through and take a look. It's hard to see everyone who's come off the boards, but the pick has just been written out by Jonas Dirks. It's coming up, and we're going to find out pretty quickly.
Okay, I may butcher this name because I'm not sure the last name spelling, but thank you. 44th overall pick goes to the Durham Turf Dogs, and they select Brett Barras, sorry.
So definitely not going with a Peterborough pick here. Harris, not too familiar with. We haven't seen too much of him, but again, could be a sleeper pick, someone that Durham has had their eye on, that maybe has been on their radar all year, and they were just waiting for a late round to sort of grab him.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely again, at this point in the draft, you were asking, do teams take a look at guys who might stick in the NLL, and if they don't, they're a great sleeper pick, or do they just take a look at guys who come from unusual backgrounds, possibly? I think it's a chance to have a look at somebody who can come in with no expectations. So
being told he's a 6'6", 350-pound goaltender from the Ottawa area, and we talked about the Ottawa area producing some good players, and they're obviously producing some beasts as well. That sounds like a recipe for a great goalie. That's some size.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, if you've got that kind of size, as long as you can move as well, you want to be pretty agile. Interesting, and it's great to see, like we said, guys from the eastern part of the province. I don't know if they're aware of how available he is to travel, but I think that's great to see guys from that part of the province, such a burgeoning lacrosse region.
And Durham with the next pick as well. Looks like it's going to be someone who's in attendance here, as Jonas Dirks bringing up that Turf Dogs jersey.
45th pick overall, Bryden Curran.
So now a nice pick again for the Turf Dogs. Curran was a name once again. You had been here for about an hour before I arrived, and that was another name that you threw out there. You like the looks of him out there, and he was playing with some grit, both ends of the floor, and another nice addition to this Turf Dogs team.
Yeah, a guy who played very well, showed some speed on the floor. I think he just showed speed, showed some good stick skills, and a Milton and Mississauga guy. Good for him for coming and showing what he can do, and obviously impressed them enough that they wanted to spend a draft pick and bring him into camp. And he's getting a chance, as we said, to meet the coaching staff, and he's certainly someone who showed that he's got the ability to go out and run the floor.
And we are all set Southwest with the next pick.
With the 46th overall pick, Southwest Cyclops select Andrew Campbell from the London Junior Bees.
So Campbell from the London Blue Devils, Junior B lacrosse. Talk about Ottawa, but London producing some good lacrosse players in the last few years as well.
Yeah, Campbell, a kid who's shown some scoring touch, 77 points last year, including 35 goals. Again, anytime you show that you can score, it can translate pretty well. And the Southwest region definitely producing some players, as you said. I think it's just great to see see players from a variety of regions being selected.
77 points and 82 penalty minutes as well, so he can do it all.
Yeah, certainly no stranger to getting involved in the physical side of the game.
And it looks like Barrie is all set, and again, jersey in hand, so somebody in attendance will be this next pick.
With the 47th overall pick, the Barrie Blizzard select Brett Clofer.
And Clofer, Stephen, that is a name we're familiar with, and somebody who I would say is a sleeper getting picked this late in the draft.
Well, a guy who came out and ran the floor today, a guy that we're more familiar with from his goaltending past, and decided to come out and try his hand with the stick, and he went out, got some shots off, and certainly went and played a role with his team. And again, why not take a shot at this point? Give this guy, who is obviously in a somewhat unfamiliar environment, give him a chance to go out and excel and show you what he can do. And a Barrie guy, certainly a chance to just step into camp and bring a lot of passion.
And again, not to beat the dead horse, but sleeper is a term that we've obviously had to bring up in the last few rounds. Do you think this last pick will be a complete out-of-left-field sleeper, or do you think it's going to be someone who has been on the radar for us?
I think it's going to be someone who's here. I just saw Jeremy Levy walking up with the jersey, and I'm very curious because I think there are a few more players from the scrimmage who certainly put on good performances and caught the eye of the coaches.
All right, let's head up to the podium.
With the 48th pick overall, the Southwest Cyclops select DJ Nedelko.
So DJ, if I'm not mistaken, you were talking to him for a little bit down on the bench, is that right?
Yeah, I had a bit of a chat with DJ. Just wanted to know whether he prefers being called DJ or David. He's a guy who plays long stick with the Guelph Griffins, just won a Piscataway Cup championship, had a tremendous tournament, and an all-Canadian defender for the Griffins, and a guy who came out and, again, what you need to do when you come to the combine, you come to the scrimmage and start to perform. He's primarily a defensive player. He played junior B lacrosse and was a defender there. And you need to come out. He's a Wallaceburg Red Devil, and you need to show them that you can play all over the floor. And he did that. I thought in the drills he looked like he was running pretty well, moving the ball well, and in the game as well. I just thought I'm really pleased to see him get picked because I thought he did a good job of showing some nice hands, showing some skill, showing a good all-around game. And I was very impressed with him at the Piscataway and pretty impressed with him today in the combine as well.
So now with all the draft picks wrapped up, who's going to win the Creators Cup this year, Stephen?
Okay, that is a really excellent question. I think you have to look at the Niagara Lock Monsters as a really solid team again. Getting Zach Boychuk, they've shored up the goaltending that they lost with Dave DeRuccio. I think they have to go in as at least co-favorites. I think Oswegan has such a deep pool of talent to draw from, and some tremendous junior players coming up. I think they're going to be candidates again. You got to go with the usual suspects. But I think the great thing when you look at the way these teams have built themselves today, I think that Barrie, Durham, and Southwest are all going to be very challenging for these teams. And I think anybody could make the playoffs. And I think anybody could come through in the playoffs. I think it's going to be a very exciting playoff run. Maybe we'll have overtime in the championship again.
All right, and a big thank you to everyone who is tuning in online right now. On behalf of Steven Stamp, I am Scott Arnold. We'll throw it back up to the podium for Jim Veltman's wrap-up.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for doing a great job tonight. We just want to thank everybody that participated today. We'd also like to congratulate all the draftees and those that did not get drafted. Please contact your GMs, see if you can get an open tryout at one of their open camps. At a free agent tryout, you are now free agents. I'd like to also send a big thank you to our sponsors. Made this day possible. Thank you. Good luck to all. Can't wait to see you at the rink supporting your teams in 2015. Season single game tickets now available, CanadianLacrosse.com.